For our next story, we are going to cover the case of a 12-year-old Kansas girl who, while in school, was arrested for pointing her finger in the shape of a gun at classmates, as though this was an actual threat. So we're going to read this story and read a little background, and we're going to comment along the way. Finger guns have been in the news a lot lately. First, there's a Pennsylvania man who was charged with disorderly conduct for pointing his index digit at his neighbor. That case, I believe Leonard French previously covered that case, and there was a little bit more to it in that particular case. So in that particular case, there was more to suggest an actual threat. So it wasn't just the finger in that case, it was a little bit more, which goes to show the importance of the facts. Last week, a St. Louis man stopped a fleeing hit-and-run driver by threatening him with his thumb and forefinger. Excellent. Those stories sound crazy, but there's no lunacy quite like the public education zero-tolerance lunacy. I agree. Zero tolerance as a proposition is a losing proposition because justice requires nuance, and zero tolerance does not allow for nuance. So I have zero problems with zero tolerance policies accordingly. News now comes from Overland Park, Kansas, that a 12-year-old girl was handcuffed and dragged out of her school for making a finger gun gesture towards some of her middle school classmates. Police hauled her out in handcuffs, arrested her, and charged the child with a felony for threatening. I'm not 100% sure that she has the requisite mens rea for a felony, but this is where we are. Shawnee Mission School officials say that they could not discuss the case, citing privacy laws, but they didn't say it was the district that arrested the child. We don't do that. That's not our job. It's not to enforce the law, but keep kids and adults safe. We're sure that every teacher, student, and parent of the Shawnee Mission School District will sleep better knowing that this real and present danger has been removed from the school. Yeah, I sense the sarcasm, and I join you in your sarcasm. This is pretty over the top. According to the powers that be in her school, the girl allegedly communicated a threat to commit violence. A person familiar with the incident report spoke to the Star on condition of anonymity. That person said that during a class discussion, another student asked the girl if she could kill 5 people in the class, who would they be? In response, the girl allegedly pointed her finger pistol like the ones children use playing cops and robbers. Because of that gesture, the girl was sent to Principal Jeremy McDonnell's office, and other students were talked to. The school resource officer recommended she be arrested. She was detained. Well, all I have to say to that is, click, click, baby. You can attribute this kind of zero-tolerance idiocy to a post-Parkland climate, which any normal childish behavior will dealt with in the strictest, most severe manner possible. You know, once again, not everything is factually or legally the same. So what we should do in response to various threats should be dealt with variously. We should deal with them in a nuanced way, and this is not a threat. The school student was asked, if you could kill 5 people, who would you kill? And she pointed to 5 of her classmates, or I think she might have also pointed to herself, which at this point I'm understanding because I kind of want to point to myself too. It's like, this story makes me want to go, right? So I understand. Please don't call the police. That's not actually a threat. I don't want the police to shoot me through my window. Thank you very much. Shawnee Mission's policies define intimidation as any intentional, written, verbal, electronic, or physical act or threat which is severe, persistent, and pervasive enough. Well, is it any of those things? Is it severe, persistent, or pervasive? No. Which may be expected to harm a student or damage a student's property. None of those things are present. Create a fear of harm to a student or fear of damage to property. No. Interferes with students' education or participate in a school activity. Create an intimidating or threatening an educational environment. So just super fun. So I want to cover a little bit more about this story about the finger gun incident. So I want to read a little bit more from an article from the Kansas City Star that relates to this and background so we can understand a little bit about how this came to be. So we'll read a little bit more of this. Following the many school shootings across the country, such as last year's February 14th mass killing at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, many states have adopted a zero-tolerance policy for bullying and threatening. School officials are sensitive to any gesture or language that could threaten the safety of students. In 2015, a Colorado first grader was suspended from school after forming his fingers into the shape of a gun, pointing them at a classmate and saying, "You're dead." School officials said they have a zero-tolerance policy when it comes to threats. A first grader, which would be, 8, an 8-year-old. That's just great. A year earlier in Columbus, Ohio, a 10-year-old boy was suspended for 3 days for pretending his finger was a gun. Last month in the Shawnee Mission District, two 13-year-olds at Hooker Grove Middle School showed up with guns, the real thing, found stashed in their backpacks. Both were charged with juveniles as firearms. Okay, so that's something where we should respond a little bit differently, I would think. So that is the end of the story involving the 12-year-old with the finger gun. Personally, I think this is a complete overreaction, and we don't need to, I don't even think it's a arrestable offense. I'm not even sure it's a disciplinable offense. At best, in the real world, I'd say, please don't do it again. It seems completely, again, disproportionate, but it's so hard to believe that people are overreacting so hard. Yeah, Parkland is horrible, but we don't need to respond to a 12-year-old guy saying, who would you shoot, by pointing a finger gun at classmates. I mean, it reminds me of the child who bit their Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun and was disciplined. That, it's just more of the same. So it's like, we need some nuance and we need some discretion. Zero tolerance is lame and stupid, and, I think it just needs to stop. So that is the end of that story.